Breaking news. Juan Soto is not a Minnesota Twin. Okay, you probably already knew that, but there's been a lot going on in the winter meetings, which are coming to a close, and we want to get you up to speed. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. And while you're doing that, follow me on the skeets. That's Blue Sky at warren.bsky.social. I'd be happy to hear from you there. Joining me, as he has a couple times in the absence of Mr. Dave Brown, is Mr. Gregg Masterson. You can follow him on the tweets at Gregg T. Masterson or on the skeets as well. How we doing this evening?
It's past my bedtime.
Okay, it sounds like Abe Simpson.
I do a decent Abe Simpson. How are we doing, Brandon?
I'm doing good. I do some Vikings writing and editing on the side if I didn't have enough side hustles and gigs already. And I used That's a Paddlin' reference in my most recent column. I don't even know the name of the old man on the show that says that. I know Abe Simpson, obviously.
It's Jasper.
Okay. Anyway, Vikings gave Kirk Cousins and the Falcons a paddlin'. So that's the reference I made. So I'm a big fan of that old school Simpson stuff. You know what else I'm a big fan of is being your first listen every day. So thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Twins. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. Love to hear from you in the chat if you're watching the premiere. Thanks for hanging out with us on YouTube. By the way, had another person reach out. Let me make sure I get the right name here because I want to give them some love on the show. It is, I think I'd have this pulled up, Zach K. sent me a message earlier tonight saying that we were in his Spotify Wrapped for 2024. So if you send me proof of that, I will send you a baseball card or a care package of baseball cards. Zach is going to be getting this Ken Griffey Jr. Project 2020. And you could be getting a handful of other cards. I'm going to have some fun with it. But either show me that we're in your Spotify Wrapped, or show that you've given a 5-star review on iTunes/Apple Pods, and that you're subscribed on YouTube, and I would be more than happy to stuff your stocking with some baseball cards. And I don't mean that in any weird sense. That probably didn't come out right, Greg.
You know what? It happens to me all the time.
Yes. So today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, not exactly earth-shattering news, Mr. Masterson, but Juan Soto, not a Twin. Long-term deal, could be over $800 million. $800, what do you think this is, the Tampa Bay Rays? $800 million. Actually, $800 would be more of a Braves contract, I think. But $800 million.
With 80 cents donated to the community fund or whatever.
The Braves Community Fund or whatever the Braves Foundation. Yeah. Fascinating baseball team that they are. The thing that really came out for me that was kind of interesting was, I reveled in the coping mechanisms used by Yankee fans. And honestly, it really does bother me that Yankee fans want to know about loyalty. They didn't care about loyalty when Jason Giambi left the A's to sign with them. And it's like, they just feel like they think they're baseball royalty. And it's like, I'm sorry. Every other team has to deal with guys leaving and how much it stinks. The Mets still might do that with Pete Alonso. We'll see. It sounds like the marketplace for Pete Alonso is not as strong as he may have expected, but I really don't feel bad. Even if it's more just because it's the Yankees and I don't have a lot of sympathy for the Yankees, that watching them cope to me was pretty funny. And then to see people start saying, oh, what about Carlos Correa? And it's like, wait a second. I just listened all last year about how hilarious it was that Carlos Correa wasn't playing and wasn't living up to his deal and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now all of a sudden he's providing copium to our rivals, the rivals of the Twins. Like, I thought that was just hysterical.
I mean, Yankees fans are just kind of a funny creature. There's something kind of beautiful about just how ridiculous they are. The whole 27 rings thing, and it's like a lot of the people who are saying that were alive for maybe 5 of them. There's something kind of beautiful about like having like that sort of dedication and community or whatever, but so often I don't know, it's very short-sighted, sort of the born on third base, thinking you hit a triple. A lot of people, who aren't from New York, who just adopted the Yankees as their team, all of these different things just kind of come together. And you pair it up with just like the most successful sporting franchise of all time, and you get some really funny attitudes from Yankees fans. And it's like, okay, when is the last time that somebody actually did leave the Yankees, and maybe even not like at the level of a Juan Soto, but there are so few examples of that, partially because forever the Yankees have been the team who can afford to keep them around or can afford to outbid every other team. But now when you've got the Dodgers, you've got the Mets who are just throwing money around. I mean, it's amazing to watch Yankees fans try to understand what other teams have been going through. And I mean, with somebody like Juan Soto, it's like he was traded there. He didn't choose to be a Yankee. At no point did he choose to be a Yankee, and he didn't really owe the organization anything. He played out the last year of his deal. They made him an offer, and he went with another team. I don't know. New York fans, please just be normal for once in your lives. But it is very funny. It ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun.
Well, and it shouldn't bother me as much as it does. And John Heyman is the biggest chief offender of this. But just this idea of it's good for the game for every player to want to be a Yankee, and every player wants to be a Yankee just inherently. I'm like, John, not everybody thinks that's a good thing. There's 300 and some odd million people in this country, or whatever the number is now. And I guarantee you that a vast majority of them think that, he's going to be a free agent. The Yankees are eyeing him, 2 years in advance of a great player becoming a free agent. It's just nauseating. And again, I know, he's actually
going to look great in pinstripes.
Right, exactly. He's on my TV as I'm standing here right now recording with you. And again, I know he works for a New York paper. He hasn't always done that. He's been more of a national reporter, but it's nauseating to me. Wow, he should be a Yankee. He's going to want to be a Yankee. It's for that reason alone that, like, the Ken Griffey Jr., I would retire rather than sign with the Yankees saying delights me. Not why he said it, because it's a pretty gross backstory, but
right.
I do like that it really throws some cold water in the face of everybody would love to be a Yankee.
And I mean, I do think that there is something almost healthy. Like it's very baseball that there is a team like the Yankees that has the prevailing narrative that everybody wants to be a Yankee. I feel like it wouldn't be baseball if we didn't have this silliness and this expectation that every single star has always wanted to be a Yankee. All they've ever wanted to do is be a Yankee. They want to don the pinstripes. They want to earn their pinstripes. And whether or not that's true, the fact that it's a narrative is kind of fun and stupid, and it is what makes baseball my favorite sport, is just the ridiculousness of the whole thing.
Well, and it's been a tough scene for fans of the Yankees. Lakers scuffling, Cowboys just stink right now. Yankees lose Soto, and Alabama doesn't get into
LeBron's going to get traded.
Playoff. What's that?
I said LeBron's asking for a trade, apparently. That's what all the aggregators are yelling.
Well, speaking of, I was going to wrap my Correa/Soto point with Bobby Nightingale saying earlier tonight, Carlos Correa going nowhere. Boris says he's happy with the fishing. And I even said, you happy, aggregators on the format here for the show. There was never and still is not a path for the Twins to trade Carlos Correa that makes any sense. He's worth more to them than he would be in a trade. And you can say that about a lot of guys. I mean, it's not usually the best player on your team that you can say that about, but also, you know, the salary that he's commanded and is promised makes a trade tougher. And it's a deal structured to where if he were to, there's more to it than just the bare bones of it. There's back end options and all that sort of stuff that also complicates things. And if you're trading him and eating money to get something back, that doesn't make sense. If you're trading him and not eating money and getting nothing back, that doesn't make sense. There was just never a path for a Carlos Correa trade to make sense before you mix in the no trade clause. And you know what? I hope people got the clicks they wanted. And I'm actually secretly loving that Elon is throttling some links because maybe those aggregators aren't getting as much traffic as they used to go play in.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I have no issues with Derek Falvey saying I'm taking calls on Correa. Obviously, I'm never going to hang up on a general manager. I'm going to hear them out, all of these different things. It never means anything. I don't actually care what they have to say or what gets reported. When you really sit back and think about it, there's very little evidence outside of just that the Twins don't have payroll space right now. That's the only thing in that column, and that's why it's a question. That's why, like, Joel Sherman has written about it. Mm-hmm. But all of the other factors point to Correa staying in place because either another team does not have the need for a $37 million shortstop with injury concerns or whatever, or would not put together the right package, would not get something back. The Twins are not like rebuilding right now. And if they did free up that money, I don't know how they're going to spend it to replace Correa for this season,
wouldn't.
Even if you're not super high on Correa. Right,
they exactly. Wouldn't. Let's be fair.
And so, like, obviously, the question gets asked because the Twins don't have payroll space right now. Everybody knows it. But beyond that, like, none of the other things have fallen into place. Unless the Twins get, like, knocked off their feet by some crazy offer, it's just not going to happen. And if it does happen, you know what? I'm assuming that something crazy happened, and I'll roll with it. But it's not worth getting our panties in a bunch right now.
I mean, the Marlins call and offer you Yuri Perez and Jesus Lazard or something stupid like that. Yeah, it's not happening. Couple quick Tigers notes before we go to break. Alex Cobb gets, I think it's 14 million plus incentives to 15 for 1 year. Interesting pitching, obviously not cheap. We saw a 3-year deal for 75 million for Nathan Eovaldi. The expectation is that Sean Manaea will get a bigger deal than that. And so first I want to get your Cobb thoughts. And then did you see what the corresponding move for him was?
Okay. So, I mean, the Cobb thoughts, I think it's absolutely hilarious that he got a $15 million deal after throwing how many innings did he throw last? 16.1 innings.
60 something.
It's sorry, what was that?
What? I didn't hear the number you said.
Oh, 16.1 innings.
Yeah, I was going to guess like 30.
16.
So it's 15 million up to 17 with incentives.
Yeah. So I do love it because that means that the market for Chris Paddock just got a little bit more reasonable. I'm cursed. We're cursed to every move that's being made right now, viewing it through the lens of what does this mean for Christian Vasquez and Chris Paddock. But yeah, and the corresponding move was that an Akil Baddoo DFA.
Yep. When you say the what that means, it's like the Arrested Development guy on the news. What that means for your weekend coming up next. Alex Cobb for me, that kind of money. Again, not my money, but I still like we're all a little Moneyball pilled from people who came up in a certain era of watching and reading about baseball where we kind of cringe when the money seems wrong, even though it's not ours and it's a 1-year deal. So who cares? But if my team was handing that out, I'd be like, not that excited about it. Again, I'm trapped in the idea that the Twins have no money and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, Akil Baddoo getting DFA'd, still younger than you think. I believe he's 26 and would be obviously a bounce back candidate. I think he hit under 270, 80, 90 at bats this last year. So What I wonder though is, does he do anything for you as organizational depth? I think he'll probably clear waivers at this point of the offseason and be available, as a minor league deal with an opportunity to be your fourth outfielder. Again, I know they need to get more right-handed in the outfield. I know they do, but he's a pretty good player. I was just going to say,
I don't think the Twins have enough left-handed outfielders. I think that's a position of need for them right now.
There you go.
I mean, I can't think of a single left-handed outfielder for the Twins. I don't know. If he wants to come
they're all
back,
married.
Obviously I would. if he wants to come back, I'm sure that he'll have several suitors offering him a minor league deal, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Twins were one of them. Sure, if he wants to come back, I would happily take it. I don't think I would say no to almost any minor league deal, and there might be some value still there. Obviously, he's probably never going to be the player that he was that rookie year that spurned so many Twins fans in 2021.
Great trade, Falvey.
Great non-protection, Falvey.
Well, they were heated about
that. If he wants to come back, sure.
They were heated about Tyler Wells. I mean, guys getting signed or Rule 5. It's nasty business. Let's do this though. Let's take our first break, and then when we come back, we've got a minor league deal the Twins signed with a pitcher who has some big league experience and an interesting skill set. The Guardians have been very active. We'll talk about them a little bit. And then the Pirates are dangling a pretty dang good starting pitcher. I wonder if he could be a fit for the Twins. So we'll talk about all that when we come back here in just a moment. Are you rocking with FanDuel yet? Because if you're not, now is the perfect time, because you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Check out that FanDuel app. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're back here, rip, roaring, rocking, ready to go. Segment 2 with Gregg Masterson, and definitely appreciate you filling in for Dave while he's on safari.
Oh, of course. It's been a blast.
He's actually, I don't think, on safari. I did have, though, a podcast partner one time miss, I don't know if it was 1 week or 2 weeks, but it was Cole DeVries, former Twins pitcher, and he literally missed episodes because he was on safari in Africa, which is about the richest white guy thing you could be. Came back with a lot of great pictures, but it was just like, come on, man. You want to talk about the Guardians for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the Guardians for a minute.
So they trade Don't Call Me Chris Jimenez to the Blue Jays with Nick Sandlin, a decent middle reliever with, I don't know, some troubling peripherals. Get back Spencer Horwitz, who, one, my contention is kind of like a diet David Fry, and two, is the, I think, grandson of legendary PR man. It's Jay Horwitz from the Mets. And so a lot of fun stuff about him. He's a Guardian for all of about 3 hours. In fact, I ranked eras. I said Mike Piazza's Marlins era was number 1. I think Dexter Fowler's Orioles era was 2, because remember when he almost signed with them in like 2014, and then like he walked out like a pro wrestler at Cubs camp, and it
Gates
was like
open.
whoa. Yeah, I think it was Cubs. And then there was Isaiah Kiner Falefa with the Twins, and that was almost a full day, I think. And then obviously this era for Horwitz, having some fun with it, but they flipped him to Pittsburgh for Luis Ortiz and a couple of left-handed starting pitching prospects. Now, anytime the Guardians are dealing in receiving pitching, whether it's draft, trade, free agent, you kind of like your spidey sense starts tingling a little bit. Ortiz had some pretty interesting numbers. He's got multiple years of club control. And so you're always thinking, hey, is this guy going to get better under their tutelage? Again, I think they're kind of like the preeminent pitching development team right now, or in the conversation for it. And so honestly, clearing Jimenez's salary, obviously a good thing, because I think he was due like 99 more million. And it opens up second base for, in the future, former number 1 overall pick Travis Bazzana. And I think Juan Brito gets a look for the meantime. I don't hate it for the Guardians. Again, I think the whole idea of saving money, again, it always comes back to how do they reinvest it, or do they reinvest it? But an interesting, 5, 6, 7 hours for the Guardians in the whole Tuesday night news cycle.
Yeah, and I mean, Jimenez is, I guess, I don't know whether we like it or not. He's a very good player. He's a very valuable player. At the same time, I don't think that a team like the Guardians can necessarily justify, because what was it going to be his AAV for the rest of it? 10 million this year, 15 the next, 23, 23,
like 17, I think, or something like that. 5 and
yes,
18, 19.
Yeah.
Like
and so it ends up being, oh gosh, by the end of it, by the time, for example, if Bazzana is legit, by the time he's up, you've got a guy who's making $23.5 million and might not be as movable as he is right now. I don't, like I said, I think Jimenez is a very good player. I don't know that he was worth the money. And for the Guardians, I mean, that might be, I don't know, 20% of your payroll this year. That might
they're
be
under 100 million right now.
Right. And so if you're thinking, maybe, I can't remember exactly what their payroll total was last year, but if you're at 25 million by the time he's at his peak, that's a quarter, 20% of your payroll for a glove first second baseman. And so, anytime that the Guardians, like you said, bring in a pitcher, or 3, I believe they brought in, you start going, oh, well, here we go. This is not going to end well for everybody else. I apologize. My cats just sprinted through the room and distracted me.
That's
amazing. Just like one of them just ran straight into the wall.
Little terrorists, man.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, that this obviously doesn't probably help them this year. I don't know what they're going to do with Jimenez's money, because he's only making this year $10 million. So it's not like they're like
very Pablo Lopez kind of deal. It ramps up there.
Yeah. It ramps up 10, 15, 23. And so, I don't think that they're getting better out of this deal for this year,
Nope.
which is good news for the Twins. And, the Twins have to actually do something about it this season. But, if I think it's an okay. I actually, though, I do want to say that Horowitz was a guy that was kind of on my list of potential targets if the Twins were to want to go find somebody who could play first base, who was still making the minimum, if they were a believer type thing. So I had my eye on him. But now that he has been traded twice in the last couple hours, like in the last 24 hours, that's probably out of the question. But
probably. Yeah. You mentioned that you had listened to our most recent episode, and we kind of went in depth on the idea of trading for Reed Detmers from the Angels. And I'm on board with the idea. And I think you can still trade pieces the Angels will value without crushing what the Twins need to build a solid team this year. Like if you could trade Edouard Julien and other pieces, and maybe that deal brings you back Detmers and Taylor Ward. I don't know. I mean, I think there is some potential for, it's not a, you see these trades on TV or in Twitter or whatever, where it's like, we're going to trade you Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier, and we're getting back prime Mike Trout. You know what I mean? Like it's a mutually beneficial trade where Chris Paddock, they could use more starting pitching. His value is increasing by the day just by sitting still. And Julian, may not have a defensive home, but they need bats. They need everything. I mean, they need Anthony Rendon to stay healthy. They need Mike Trout to find the fountain of youth, which makes me feel ancient even saying that. And so I think they line up well for a possible trade. Again, this is all wish casting. This is all roster baiting. I love that phrase. But Josiah Waldner, one of our most ardent fans of this show, reached out and he's like, what do you think of this trade idea? And it had all these pieces with Ben Joyce coming back and Jorge Alcala going out. And, it's fun to do and it's fun to think about. And it's got about a 0.05% chance of ever seeing the light of day. But it's trade season. It's time for the Twins. Like, if they're going to do something, if Jeff Passan is going to bomb us, if he's going to carpet bomb us in the middle of our slumber with any sort of move, it's going to be a trade. So, like, my body is ready to steal a phrase.
Yeah, and I will say to steal something I literally just heard on a podcast like 2 hours ago. I was listening to Gleeman and the Geek, and they had Dan Hayes on, who was obviously very close to the Carlos Correa thing going on earlier this week. But he also mentioned, and I hope that I'm not misstating what he said, but the Twins have been saying, because I think last week we talked about, we're waiting on the Paddock and Vasquez trades to happen so that they can turn around and reallocate that money. It sounds like, from what I heard, from what Dan said, that Derek Falvey essentially said, no, we are not going to wait. If the trade is there, we will figure out the money later. It's not like we need to get below that number before we're going to figure out a way to get under that number. But if the trade coming in happens first, which is relieving, I will say.
It's like when people, if the Twins' first move would be to sign Yasmani Grandal, everybody says, well, that's the biggest move. It's her first move. It's like the offseason is not linear. You don't have to pretend that it's linear. This isn't MLB The Show where you bid on the guy ranked 96 and then you funnel down and find a guy who's 23 years old, ranked 70 with a B+ potential. And you're like, oh, I want to try that guy out. You know what I mean? Like, people get so wrapped up in the idea that the offseason is linear. Whereas, Dave and I have been questioning / trying to kind of wrap our minds around the idea of, like, is the off season, can it progress where they have, maybe they have 3 offers waiting for Chris Paddock and they know they're going to do something like that level of what the front office does and knows at any given moment is fascinating to me. And I think it's more along the lines of, I'll never know. I can't possibly know. So I want to know it even more.
Yeah. That's one of those things that I will forever just be thinking, like, what are the conversations what are the conversations sounding like? And I do everything that I can to just like try and figure those things out. Like, I would love just to be a fly on the wall as these decisions get made. And, some poor intern is, got the threads, like the conspiracy board, sticking pins in the board everywhere.
Oh, like the guy
so if this happens, then we'll do this. Is it Always Sunny?
Isn't it?
Yeah. So
Charlie?
No, I would love to see that. Yeah. I don't know. I've never actually seen an episode. It's on my list though.
Well, it's on everybody's list. I've heard it's a great show. I've never watched it. I've had MLB Network on in the background as I've been working. Yes, believe it or not, I've been working. And I keep seeing this name come up. The Pirates have indicated that Jared Jones is very available. What? Like, the proposed trade that I saw was Jason Dominguez straight up for Jared Jones. Now, hear me out. If there was, so Garrett Crochet got traded in the last few hours of recording this, 6, 7, 8 hours now. And I was always of the mind of, like, if the Twins were going to push in their chips, if you're going to trade prospects that really make you kind of grit your teeth and, you really close your eyes and just hit accept, like the X button on your PS4 or whatever, or PS2 if you're rocking it like me. Crochet is that kind of guy.
GameCube.
Yeah, sure. The great Dreamcast here. And if you're going to push your chips in, it's going to be for a younger pitcher. It's going to be for a guy with multiple years of control. Like, this is the cream of the crop right here. I mean, if Paul Skeens didn't exist, this guy would probably be, a lot more well-known. Just incredible numbers as a rookie this year. Age 22 season, 9.76 strikeouts per nine, 2.88 walks, 1.33 homers. I mean, rookies can, they have room to grow, and that's not life or death. That's about average. Not a ton of grounders, but he's, sits upper 90s with the fastball, more along the lines of like, what are the Pirates doing here? You almost question it, but then again, you also think like they traded for Chris Archer and traded some pretty dang good young guys. They traded Luis Ortiz, a pretty good young pitcher, for, Horwitz, who's, I mean, if he's a first baseman, I think he had like a 790 OPS last year. It's not like he's got years of control, but he's not some kind of super duper Kyle Manzardo type prospect. I don't know. I'd be willing to push the chips in if I'm the Twins and Jared Jones is available, and I suspect you would be too. But like, what am I missing here?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it would take. I mean, I would drop everything to trade for a 23-year-old who's already debuted and looked pretty nice.
Didn't stink. I mean, rookies who don't stink is like, that's impressive
and have good peripherals.
Yeah, 14.1% strikeout rate. The weighted pitch values on his slider, 7.4 runs above average, which is a solid value. His fastball was above 0, which at that velo, and fastballs can be tricky. Even a good fastball is going to have a higher slash line than you might expect. Lots of sliders, which again, Twins obviously would like. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm thinking like, I'm having a heart-to-heart with Derek Shelton being like, dude, why are you guys trying to move this guy? 127 stuff plus, 130 stuff plus on his slider, 132 on his fastball. This is,
I will say,
Garrett Cole 2.0.
Yeah, and I mean, I just as you were talking there, I fired up the old baseball trade values. And, apparently, you can get him straight up for Emmanuel Rodriguez according to the trade value simulator.
I think I would do that. I honestly do. I
would do that. I don't know if the Pirates would do that, but yeah, I would totally be open to that if the Twins liked Jared Jones. I don't know. I don't know what like extremely open to moving him really means. Is that just another way of saying Derek Falvey's canned line where it's like, we'll listen to anything? I mean, I don't know. Like it's all kind of, I always call it like, Plato's cave, and it's just shadows dancing on the walls. And we really don't know what's actually going on behind closed doors, or what the statements, like the one statement that we get from a GM for weeks at a time actually means. But yeah, if that was a question, I would throw the house at that guy.
Well, we also have to keep in mind too, when we hear these GM types and front office executive types say things, it's because they're asked a question. They're not volunteering this information just at will, willy-nilly. Hey, listen, check out my phone. I got a call from, Billy Bean, and we were talking about this. Like, they're asked a question, they answer a question, it gets reported on. Like, I think fans maybe don't quite understand that dynamic. It's kind of like how they also don't understand how not all written articles are created equally as far as aggregation, blogs, reporting, columnists. Like, each of them fill a very specific, I wouldn't say necessarily vital role, but valuable all the same. But people's news judgment is just so poor right now that like aggregators and people who have been covering the team for 25 years are basically on a level playing field now, which to me is just hysterical.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would, if I was Derek Falvey, I would be doing my due diligence about exactly what they would want. Especially like in a year like this where they have so little payroll space, they need, if they're going to bring in some pitcher worth his salt, that guy is going to be some pre-arbitration guy. They're not like we saw what Cobb went for. They are not going to afford like a playoff, like a number 4 starter with their financial situation this year, it's not going to happen. It's going to have to be through trade, and it would have to be somebody like a Jared Jones. I don't know what it would take to get him, but I hope that Derek Falvey is picking up the phone just to check for himself.
Did you happen to catch that the Twins signed a pitcher to a minor league deal earlier today?
Huascar Ynoa? No,
Darren McCockett.
No, that was yesterday.
Okay, it showed up on Roto World today. So, I kind of watched some of his highlights, obviously scouting the stat line and all. Lots of sliders. Guy does not throw hard, 89. I think I see he had made a start. There's some highlights and strikeouts and all that for the Marlins. I see a reliever, a sinker slider guy who it's either a sweeper or a slider. They called it a sweeper on the broadcast, but it's got kind of like fun Frisbee movement. Bullpens are all different types are welcome in a bullpen. And so if you get a soft tossing guy who gets grounders, or maybe he's a little deceptive Sergio Romo type, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not going to dedicate too much time to a guy who signed a minor league deal. But every time they do that with this front office, and even the Terry Ryan front office, I'm always intrigued by minor league deals to pitchers, because a lot of these guys are one tweak away from being at least respectable in the major leagues.
And I mean, I think that that's what a smart front office does. We've seen the Twins try to swim in the pool of, signing established or even trading for established relievers. And I believe the only two times that worked was Sergio Romo and Michael Fulmer between free agency and trades. I mean, Emilio Pagan, I guess, if you squint. And so,
it's like Fernando Rodney, Addison Reed.
You've got to just cycle through as many minor leaguers as you can get your grubby paws on, or
you're more likely to get a Jared Burton than you are a Addison Reed.
Right. And you know what? You can sign 10 of them. And if one of them hits and is a decent, like 6th or 7th inning guy, you just hit a home run.
Even an Alan Buznitz, to bring that guy was in the big leagues this last year, believe it or not. But if you hit a guy like that, that alone is worth it. And
so, just cycle through as many of those guys as you possibly can. There's never been like a bad, unless the dude is like just kind of a bad person, there's never been a bad minor league pitcher free agent signing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Very, very quickly, Garrett Crochet to Boston for Kyle Teal, Braden Montgomery, Wikelman Gonzalez, I don't know if I'm saying that right, and Chase Medroth. About as good as they could have expected to do in a trade like that.
Yeah. I think they did really well. I will say that with Boston, gosh dang it, I couldn't the name. Boston moving Teal. There might be a Christian Vasquez.
I did see some people saying that too. Hey, bring Christian Vasquez back. I mean,
it's
maybe you could get they have a former Twins reliever prospect on their team right now. Maybe you could get him back. I bet Seth Snows would know so fast.
So if Teal wasn't gonna be like an opening day guy, but he was probably part of their plan for this year if he was around. And they've got a miserable starting catcher defensively in Wong. And so it's like, maybe you make a play to bring in a very respected catcher defensively. Maybe there is a market there that just opened up. Who knows? I think that they just traded for a minor leaguer catcher with the Yankees earlier tonight. Who knows? Again, we're cursed to view every single transaction through the lens of what does this mean for Vasquez and Paddock, and there we go again.
It's gonna bother me until I figure out who I'm thinking of. They did bring in Fulmer though, so that's an interesting move. Yeah, the Red Sox, they're caught kind of in the middle of who they want to be and where they want to get to, and coming up just short on a few different guys here. Cam Boozer. Cam Boozer is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have him as signing out of indie ball. He's almost 33, but I guarantee you, if I would have said that to Seth Stills, he would have known right away. Yeah, I think they did well. I think I hadn't really thought about that as far as adding to the fit of Christian Vasquez. The only thing funnier than Yankee fans that are all up in their feels is I think Red Sox fans are pretty close. They're in the. I mean, because here's the deal: the Mets fans, they kind of exist there, and so like hanging out in your neighborhood's not that funny. It's cool, whatever. But like Yankee fans, when they step foot out of their bubble and like are like, "Whoa, this is what the rest of the league is like," that's hysterical. Red Sox fans, they've been beaten up a little bit by recent times. You know, obviously losing Mookie Betts at $300 million and then trying to sign Juan Soto at $7+ is funny. I mean, it's unironically funny, but they're not quite as funny as Yankee fans. But I still enjoy Red Sox fans being up in their feelings just a little bit.
I mean, Yankees fans and Red Sox fans are very much cut from the same cloth. They're estranged cousins. They fell out of the same tree. Those types.
It's like this is what not winning World Series will do to an MF, right? Like,
yeah,
birds of a feather. They're distant cousins.
It's a diverging path where we have like identical twins who are raised by two different families, and one, was with a poor family and one was with a rich family. They're basically the same guys, except they've had a little bit different upbringing, but their outlook on the world pretty much the same. Their reactions to things.
The Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap from 1997.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Although both those were rich. I know way too much about that movie because my sister was 8 when that came out. So let's just move on.
That taught me about peanut butter Oreos.
Yeah, that's the good stuff right there. That's why I'm fat. Rule 5, Twins getting in on the action, and it was their first Rule 5 pick since 2017. Do you remember who they took in 2017?
Oh gosh, it was that
he's still going
reliever. Oh my gosh. It was on my mind earlier today. I can't remember.
You know what I love about
Tyler Kinley.
Yep, Tyler Kinley. You'll get people who prepare for their show and they'll have all their answers ready and it'll be bam, bam, bam. I think it's fun and a little more real to kind of be like, hey, what do you think? Like I'll ask a player if I have them on a show, like, who did you hit best against? Who did you have the fewest strikeouts against, or like not most strikeouts against, most walks against? And it's fun to put people on the spot like that. So I thought that was pretty good by you thinking on your feet to come up with Tyler Kinley. I think it was Justin Haley before that, Ryan Presley not long before that. But yeah, 7-8 years since Tyler Kinley. It's Aberson Castellano from the Phillies. A Castellanos from the Phillies is probably not what you would have expected, but in the Rule 5 draft, I went back and watched some highlights of him. Can reach 96 with the fastball as a starter. Now, put him in the Mackey lab, see what he does as a reliever. Obviously, his path to contributing this year would be out of the bullpen. And maybe, again, we're using too much energy on a Rule 5 pick. That's something I have a lot of notoriety in my career. I talk a lot about minor league signings, Rule 5 picks when they apply, and backup catchers. And so, like, I spend a lot of time on minutia. And we're going to spend some time on minutia because Castellano, 96-mile-an-hour fastball. I saw him strike out a guy on a TikTok/reel video. But the curveball, he had 7 straight strikeouts in a game, and the curveball seemed to be really working for him. I think if you turn him into a fastball curveball guy, you put him in the bullpen as like your swing man, your Jesse Chavez, your I always forget the guy that was with the every team in the AL West. He pitched forever too, but anyway, a guy who is kind of a swingman type. I think you could have value from a youngster like this, and I think that if they were going to take anybody from any archetype, this is probably who I would have gone with.
Yeah, and you're looking at a guy who does have a 3-pitch mix, but you can get really excited about his fastball and his breaking ball. And when you're looking at and I've heard some people speculate that he still might have a career as a starter if they get him through this season without just completely burning him out, or he just loses it. Because I mean, it is a daunting thing, because he did not reach AAA last year, I believe. I don't quote me on that, but I don't think that he reached AAA last year. So he's making the jump. He's going to probably be kind of a long reliever. Hopefully they can find him work. And I think that that's something that the Twins have been trying to have on the team for the past few years, and they just have not had a guy.
Sorry about interrupting you, but no, he did not make it to AAA, but these AA numbers kind of jump off the screen. So at Reading, he's 1.5 years younger than the average AA player. So he's not super young, but 3.79 ERA, 11.2 strikeouts per 9, 2.0 walks per 9, 1.1 homers per 9, 6.9 nice hits per 9, and a 0.99 whip. That's a guy you can dream on. Again, I know we're scouting the stat line, and I'm kind of mixed watching some video on with this, but man, there's a lot to love in this statistical profile.
Yeah, and so you can plug him in this year. Hopefully they can get him like enough consistent work. I know that's something that they've kind of struggled with in recent years. It's part of the reason that kind of the Randy Dobnak swingman thing fell apart a few years ago, is they just couldn't find him enough work. So hopefully they're able to get into enough games where sorry, 1 second. I apologize.
I remembered who the pitcher was, by the way. Yusmeiro Petit.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Gosh. Yeah. So I wouldn't, I'm excited to see kind of what he does. I will say that they're really stocked up right now on right-handed relievers. They've basically got, like, already there was a possibility that Louis Varland was not, isn't going to make the opening day roster because they just don't have room for him. And then you add in this guy, and it's like, okay, now who's getting bumped? Is this like Alcala getting bumped out of the
right?
bullpen?
And for the uninitiated, if you're a Rule 5 guy, you have to be on the roster, or you get offered back to the team for $25,000 or whatever. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket financially for big league teams, but have to stay on the big league roster.
Yeah, and so obviously, by the time we get done with spring training, somebody's going to be injured. There's going to be room in the bullpen, but they're pretty stocked up with righty relievers. I wonder if that signals anything for Griffin Jacks, but I don't know. Yeah. I've never disliked a Rule 5 pick. I tweeted it out today, but like, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. The worst thing that can possibly happen with a Rule 5 pick is he has 20 bad innings and they lose $50,000 this year. Okay. Test this guy out, see if you can make him a good 2-pitch pitcher, see if you can make him a 3-pitch pitcher, get that changeup running so that, a year or two from now, maybe he is a contender to be in the rotation, or he's established in the bullpen, whatever. It sounds like they've been really high on him for a little bit. And so I'm excited to see what happens. Also, we might get 2 weeks into spring training and say, oh, this was a mistake, we'll send him back. Oh, well. But that's the most exciting thing that's happened for the Twins this offseason so far. Yeah.
Well, you got to respect Huascar Ynoa too. But the parts are there for a good pitcher here. And so, I mean, it's not entirely unlike having Ronnie Enriquez in your farm system or something like that. Couple quick ones before we let you go, because we're already well into overtime. Jorge Polanco has met with the Astros and Blue Jays at the winter meetings. Obviously, this came across before the Blue Jays had acquired Andres Jimenez from the Guardians, but both of those teams have guys stationed at second base. In case you missed it, Jose Altuve still plays for the Astros. With that said, like, if the Astros wanted to make him into like a Yuli Gurriel type, especially with his knees being kind of tricky, there's a decent player in there at first base, a little bit of second base. I don't know if you'd want him to play any third base at all, but I don't know. I mean, if the Twins wanted to find a way to make it work, and they can't, I mean, it's just not going to happen. There's still a good ball player in there, and that would be 2 pretty good fits for him. Again, he wouldn't be the guy at second base, but good teams need good players and good players who can play a couple spots. Jorge Polanco, in my mind's eye, is still a good player.
Yeah, and I've said for now a couple of years that I thought that Jorge Polanco was going to be like from age 31 to 35, like a good quality major league first baseman. By the time he was done with the Twins, that was kind of, or like even going into last year before they traded him, I was thinking through, I could see him already splitting time between first and second, just kind of on a little bit of a rotation, depending on who else was in the lineup that day. Especially because Alex Kirilloff wasn't going to be around early in the season, so I started an Excel spreadsheet and was like mapping out like what a normal week might look like, moving him around. I've thought that Jorge Polanco is going to be a quality first baseman, not like an all-star, but like a good, solid, maybe top 15 first baseman.
Ty France at his best,
31. Maybe. Yeah, and so, but this last year kind of threw a wrench in that, but I still do believe that there is a quality hitter in there. Maybe if he's going to be playing a lot of first base, because he does not look good at second base right now, or in the past few years at all. There could be a solid first baseman, put on a little weight, gain a little strength, and maybe you're hitting a few more home runs and you're playing decent defense at first base and you're a switch hitter. I could see it happening.
I love watching him take plate appearances when he's at his best. I mean,
yes,
he just never looks out of sorts up there. I said the same thing about Eddie Rosario, but more along the lines of Eddie Rosario never got in a moment that was too big for him mentally. There were times where obviously physically he'd swing at everything under the sun. With Polanco, I think he's up there cool as a cucumber, and I love that. And if the Twins decided to go that route for first base with Jose Miranda at third and Royce Lewis at second, I would not have a problem with that whatsoever. A switch hitter, guy who can do a little bit of everything, and someone's going to get hurt. You got options. Last thing, Gary Sanchez gets a 1-year deal for $8.5 million. What does that mean for Christian Vasquez?
That's literally what I was going to open with. So you're picking it up. Yes. I think that we had not seen catchers going for. I think that catchers were signing for a little bit lower money than what we had expected until we get to Gary Sanchez. Good for him. I do not understand for the life of me why in this, like with this trend line that we've been seeing with catcher salaries this offseason, Gary Sanchez goes and gets $8.5 million. Was he injured last year at all? Because he did not rack up many plate appearances.
I don't think so. I think it was more along the lines of like
he had 280 plate appearances last year in 89 games. How many did he start and how many did he catch?
But I mean,
he caught 20 games and DH'd 47 times. He only started 68 games. He came off the bench in 21 games. 19 times as a pinch hitter. So there's a bunch of numbers for you that you didn't ask for. But
he's not a one-more catcher even.
Yeah, I don't exactly know unless they see because the Orioles saw unless you see him as a DH, I guess you can potentially have a different angle on that. But he is a below average hitter last year.
If I'm paying him to DH, I'm not giving him $8.5 million.
I really do not understand, but that's another catcher off the board. That's a catcher who went for real money. And that's at least like one tally in the catchers are getting overpaid this offseason column.
What does he give you offensively that Rowdy Tellez doesn't?
The ability to catch, offensively, you can slot him into 3 different offensive places in the lineup as opposed to Tellez, which is more like 1.5, I guess. Because he can also play for, I don't know, man. I really don't.
It's not adding up to me, but ideally, not going to catch much with Adley Rutschman in Baltimore. Hey, we went way over time, but thank you so much for taking time out. And I think we get you possibly one more time here before Dave Brown returns. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Very fun. Swan song.
That has been Gregg Masterson and will be again, I think on Friday. So He's Gregg Masterson. Follow him on the tweets at Gregg T. Masterson. Find him on the skeets. I'm at Brandon_Warren, which is just my name with an underscore. So pretty easy to find, or at Warren.bsky.social. Check out Locked On Twins on Twitter too. We're there. Haven't used it enough, so we'll get up to that here. But again, he's Gregg Masterson. I'm Brandon Warren. Checking out, saying we will see ya
tomorrow night.
Nicely done. You're getting it. Dave thinks you're going to Wally Pip him, though, so we'll see.
Well,